Hey everybody, I want to bring you some tricks that have been working for me in facing a blank page. Instead of just writing out of a vacuum, I was having this conversation with my mom while we were meditating, or after we meditated, near a beautiful flowing creek called Slaughter Creek. And some of the things that work for me are, instead of writing out of a vacuum, like how would that creek sound in music and in my head? So I might sit down and press record and record on a live video or on a voice memo, creek flowing, and see what I come up with. And then I might add a melody to it, or I might develop it further. But what would jagged rocks against my feet sound like, right? Okay, so that's one hack. One hack is maybe, could I set a poem? Could I set a scene? Could I set a photograph? Could I set an emotion? You know? So the creek, I was coming up with something like this. Musically, so I just improvised something there that is my impressions of the creek that we were hanging out next to. Another thing I might do is I might play on different instruments, because different instruments cause different things to come out. So I might develop something on the violin or develop something on the guitar. And it's very interesting, because if I take that same material, unlike J.S. Bach, but if I take material that I wrote on guitar, it might sound or might feel strange on the piano. But it's good to just get out of your head and just mess around and just play. They don't call it working music, they call it playing music. So just get completely out of the left brain and just almost let the fingers decide where they want to go. Pick a key, and now while I'm doing this, I might let my left brain in just for a second and go, what if I were to change one note? Like that. Just changing one note causes a whole different mood change. If I were recording that, I wouldn't have to be writing that down. I could just stay in the flow, and then I can go back and check my voice recorder later. Hey Charles. So those are some ways, and I have all these little voice memos, and sometimes I stumble upon them after them sitting there for a year and find these little nuggets that I can work on. And then have something to work with. Another thing that's cool is play the guitar, put the recorder or the piano, put it right next to your guitar, and if the person doesn't mind, have a conversation and just doodle on the guitar, because if we're not paying attention, somehow our fingers know where to go. And I find that a lot of times some of the most cool stuff, moods, chords, fingerings, melodies, come when I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing. And if I'm having a conversation with somebody, my verbal side, analytical brain is being activated, and in the background, the creative musical thing is going on. So like I'm right now talking to you, and I'm just gonna let the fingers do to get your creativity flowing, writing music. Could you share some below with me? Once again, can you write a scene? Can you go somewhere in nature and write something for a tree, a flower, an animal, a rock, a river, a creek, a weeping willow? And could you write not a full piece, but just a fragment? It could just be a melody. It could be a couple notes. What does that say? You know, if I change one note. So, I started off with a really simple idea that just something out of nowhere where my hand was going. And if I recorded that, then I could go back and then I can apply the craft. The craft is like, well, what do I do with that material, right? Just like Beethoven, right? Right? It's a very simple theme. What did he do with it is the craft of composition. But who knows what the inspiration or that came from. If you look at all of Beethoven's notebooks, you'll see that he had multiple iterations trying out, what if I go, no, don't like that. And he tried and just multiple variations, and then at some point had to make a decision which one worked for him. One of the things I remember with when I was married, I used to sit around the piano and I would write things, and I would say, what do you think's better? Do you like this? Or do you like... I remember constantly bothering the kids. Which one do you like better? Right? But something that's worked for me is just staying in the flow and staying as much as possible in that non-judgmental space, recording that, and then listening back. Were there any good points in there that something really interesting happened that I really enjoy? Earlier I came upon this thing, and I can't even remember what I did, but it was very evocative. I think it was kind of like this. For the river scene. Whoops. So I already made something up right there. I can go back and listen to that on the live video. I already kind of like the sound of it. And anyway, where I find craft is helpful is then I can go back and I can kind of write a little bit of that out and make some random decisions, make some random choices, and see like, well, what if I change one note? And maybe I don't like that. So I've kind of created a mood here, right? So the craft is I can sit down and go, okay, I know it's using this scale, which is creating kind of a sound that I like. So what other material could I generate from that sound? So from that scale, I could play chords like, okay, so I had this thing. And then I could experiment. I could say, well, that note right there kind of is a tension note. What if I leave it out and I want to add that in later for a little spice to create balance? So if I play Mom's House, so I haven't used that note at all. So that was a sort of a combination of like, okay, my brain, cerebral cortex, and just letting my hands do their thing. So you can kind of weave in and out of these different variations of using your brain or not using your brain. And I was like, okay, I can intentionally decide, okay, I'm going to put that outside note here now. Okay, so again, my hands started doing something that in other words, I really wasn't directing my hands. Or my ear just wanted to go that way. There was no like theory thinking about it. I don't even know what I did. I can back it up and see what I did. Okay, so the point is, you can kind of go in and out of this and really try to maintain a sense of playfulness, a sense of exploration. I'm talking to you and letting the hands just do what they do. No judgment. Okay, so anyway, there's just a little peek into what I do in front of a blank page, and I've been facing a blank page, a long blank page of about 10 years, and feeling this kind of explosion of creativity now that we're in Corona times, and just letting the material come, and then sorting through it and seeing what I want to use and see what I want to share with people, and seeing what might be an improvisatory vehicle to use. And so this is how I'm facing the blank page, and I don't care if it's unoriginal. I mean, it may sound like Debussy, it may sound like somebody else, but it doesn't matter. I'm just not going to worry about that. I was thinking earlier that this whole idea of the tension note, if you think of the piece by Ravel, which is called Ravel's Bolero. Very amazing use of restraint in terms of building the tension. How does it start? Anyway, there's some real tense notes, and there they go. Like, let's see. I think that note, right? All right, so it's a tightrope. Yes, you've got all this. It's like this grand, gigantic collage of paints that you have available that you can paint from. So the theory gives you more paints to work with, more colors, more variations. So like if I only knew the E major scale, sure there's a lot that I could do. But if I want to draw from some other colors, I could change one note like that and create a whole different collage, right? Or I could do this. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'd love to hear your feedback on how you face the blank page, especially if you're a composer or a melody writer. Thanks for joining me. Jeff, Lori, who else? Glenn, Barnes, Lynn, Cage, how are you doing? Mukesh, Charles, Paul Mott, thanks for watching. I used to call these Coffee with Will, but I haven't had a cup of coffee in a year and a half. Everybody take care. Love to hear your comments below on creativity and filling the blank page.